Today, we're having our FTC seminar, and it's going to be an introduction to FIRST and FTC. Okay.
Then do we want to introduce ourselves? I can start with my.
Okay, yeah, so we're FTC Team 11138 Robo Eclipse, and I'm Ethan. Wait, who's next?
Oh, do you want me to go? I can go.
Yeah, wait, we're just saying our names, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm Serena. I guess I'm the outreach lead for our team. And then I'm also one of the organizers for this hackathon.
Hi, I'm Waishi. I mostly do hardware for the team.
I'm Eric, the software lead, or Eric, there are three Erics.
I'm Seth, and I work on hardware.
I'm Delaney, and I also work on hardware.
I'm Nathan. I'm part of the CAD team and software. And just a quick reminder that this workshop will be recorded.
Okay, so that's everyone. And next slide.
Miss Eric C.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Eric C.
Hi, I'm Eric Lee. I also mainly do software.
Okay, so we're going to be going over what we're going to be doing today. We're going to have a quick program introduction, and then we're going to go over like what the season's like for us, and then we'll talk about what this year's game is, and then we'll have like basically what your judging session will look like, and then finally we'll have a short Q&A for any questions, and we'll answer them. Yeah.
Here's an introduction of the first program. This is a video about FIRST. We're gonna play it on YouTube because it's just not gonna work on.
FIRST was founded in 1989 by Dean Kamen. As an inventor, he realizes that he can impact so many people with his inventions, but the way to have the biggest impact is to create a whole generation of new inventors. Through hands-on, engaging robotics challenges, FIRST ignites passion in STEM for kids ages 6 to 18. There's 4 worldwide programs where the kids dive deep into a problem and help invent a solution.
Once you get the challenge, you figure out your game plan.
You make a robot and you code on it.
When it works, I'm very happy because we worked really hard.
Throughout each of our programs, teams embrace FIRST core values.
Discovery. Innovation.
Impact.
Inclusion.
Teamwork.
Fun.
At face value, FIRST is a robot competition, but at the end of the day, it's so much more than that. We learn a lot about leadership, how to communicate with others, problem solving,
working together, helping other teams. You have mentors that are actually in the field that can tell you, oh, this is why this works, and this is the science behind it. And you're like, oh, wow, that makes so much sense.
Our mentors teach us not just about STEM, but about life.
They always flip the question around and asked me, where would you find the answer to that question if I weren't here? They slowly built my confidence up so much more.
I think it's incredibly important for youth to see careers in science and engineering as a possibility for them.
Being in FIRST, I realized I am smart enough to do this. It doesn't matter what background you come from.
FIRST actually taught me that I'm capable of doing anything that I set my mind to.
It definitely made me look at other challenges and be like, hey, I want to try that.
I know that I can do it now.
There's nothing better than seeing your robot on the field playing for the first time. You're all there like, is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? And then it works, it's the best feeling ever.
Even though we're competing against other teams, one thing that we really focus on is cooperation, which where every single team who we're competing against, we're also working together
It's very competitive, but you're friends with the people that you're going against. It's like a sport, but in its own way, it's better than a sport.
I think First in general really has helped me become more involved in my local community.
Back in my old elementary school, I'm trying to help their robotics program. If you start them off young, their possibilities are endless.
As a participant in the first program in high school, you get access to $80 million worth of scholarships.
There are scholarships for colleges, universities, as well as technical programs.
First really develops a pipeline where there's jobs, there's careers, there's opportunities for every one of these kids based on the skills and the experiences they develop in these programs.
In First, every student can go pro. It's a really cool way to step into your future.
First completely changed my life. It can really prepare you to solve any number of the world's big problems because they're going to teach you these applied skills around people, science, and how the two come together.
The future is technology, and I feel like robotics takes a big role, and I'm just really happy about being part of it.
I am first.
Yo soy first.
I am first.
I am first.
What is FIRST? FIRST is the acronym that stands for Inspiration, Recognition of Science and Technology, and has 4 programs, which are the FLO, Junior, FLO, FTC, and FRC. FIRST is a nonprofit organization aimed to inspire young people to be leaders in science and the technology field. FIRST programs engage students in mentor-based programs that help them develop STEM skills and important skills like innovation, communication, and leadership. FIRST teaches STEM awareness, so it increases the number of students who pursue their future and careers to be STEM-based. Also, FIRST teaches about innovation and entrepreneurship. This inspires youth to become leaders and innovators in their field and societies. These traits will be extremely important in the future. FIRST isn't only focused on robotics. FIRST teaches many 21st century work life skills where young people develop essential skills, including teamwork, leadership, and communication skills, and many more. For example, during a competition, I learned that communication was essential, so I started to use my voice more often.
The First Tech Challenge requires participants to be between the grades 7 and 12. Our team has members ranging from 8th to 12th grade. The maximum number of team members is 15, and our team has 12 members. During the competition, teams are challenged to design, build, and operate robots in an alliance format. It is important to understand that it's not all about competition. It's more focused on learning. Our team has learned how to program, design a robot using different tools, and how to time manage in a tight schedule. FTC highlights core values such as gracious professionalism, cooperation, and team members doing the work. Cooperation means that we compete with other teams while also cooperating with them by sharing our designs and what we have learned. For more information, visit firstinspires.org. This slide shows various information on how FIRST helps participants improve their academic life. For example, we have seen an 87% increase in interest in going to college and doing well in school. 100% of participants are able to practice teamwork, and 93% of members have learned to effectively solve disagreements. 92% of participants have also increased their leadership skills. The FIRST experience allows for students to gain STEM knowledge, essential life skills, and leadership qualities. While students will develop technical skills through their experience, they also gain important life skills. They grow in leadership, and gain social skills such as working as a team and being able to communicate with other team members. Additionally, students become more independent. In our outreach events, we share our experiences with the rest of the community. We've learned how to present and collaborate with others. Next slide. So here are some pictures from our hardware team. So on the left, we have pictures of just robot designs and how we've designed our robot on different softwares, such as Fusion 360. And on the right, we have our physical subsystems built and ready to function.
Cool. So now that we've given a rough overview of the first program and first tech challenge in particular, we're going to go over a bit about a typical season in first. So first, before the season even starts, something you have to do in the very beginning, I guess, is to form a team. And the basic requirements are 2 adult coaches. And an important note here is that they don't need to be professionals in their fields. They don't need to be like software graduates from college or something, or like professional hardware experts, or like mechanical engineers. A lot of these things, some of the things, at least in the first program, like some of these professionals don't even need to work with in the field. For example, like we deal a lot with robot movement, and so even though our coaches have been working in Microsoft for like 20 years or so, they haven't had a lot of experience with, for example, PID controllers. So even they're learning, and we're all kind of learning together. They often bring some sort of kind of knowledge about where to find answers, like on the web, and some sort of expertise that can possibly help the team. So there's definitely no downsides to having adult coaches who have experience gained over decades. Next, the team member requirement is 2 to 15. It's like a team after all, right? So you got to have different people. And as it mentions below, it can be of mixed age and gender. And it's actually a lot better to have mixed age and gender, I think, because it provides the opportunity for different members to kind of bring their own perspectives to it. For example, like our younger members are often a little bit more free thinking and creative, but our older members are kind of hard set on what is and isn't possible sometimes, but oftentimes the younger members can surprise what is possible. And so, yeah, another important note, I guess, is that teams don't need to be created from one school or organization. For example, our team is from, I don't know, 5 or 6 different middle and high schools around the Puget Sound. So it's really cool to get different perspectives from different schools, because different schools often have different ways of teaching students, I guess, and growing them to be adults. So yeah, I guess the wider your range of students by age and genders and locations is, the better your team can function sometimes.
So after you form your team, you will have to do a bunch of stuff over the season schedule. So a brief overview of the season schedule: registration will open in May, which you would have to already have formed your team. Before the season starts is between May and August, and during this time you can talk with your team, introduce yourself, and start thinking of some ideas, or start building your robot, such as the chassis, before the season even starts. In September, the kickoff starts, where all of the tasks your robot needs to do will be presented. And after that, you will have to build and practice your robot, which includes building it, coding it, creating designs. All of that will happen through September through January. Starting from October until February will be the qualifying season, where you will have to compete in tournaments against other teams in a similar area, and you will be competing in these tournaments and completing the tasks with your robot. The state and regional championships will occur sometime between December and March, and the World Championship will occur in April. And this is all without COVID. So after COVID, some of these have changed, but this is a general season schedule without COVID. So the competition season, as I mentioned earlier, starts off with a kickoff in September, where everything will be revealed. The first league qualifier is usually in November, where you will be able to compete with other teams in in the general area, which happens in November. The second one with the same teams will happen in December. And the interleague qualifier, which is the last tournament with all of the same teams, will happen in January. The top 7 teams from the interleague qualifier will progress to state championship, which takes place in either January or February. And the top 7 teams from each state will progress to Worlds, which happens generally in April. And a quick comparison to the COVID season, it is currently January and we still have not had our first league qualifier yet, which kind of shows how COVID impacted our competition season. For the tournament experience, it is very fun. You can learn to make a bunch of new friends from different teams, along with making new friends from people in your own team. But you should always try to focus on trying your best throughout the competition. And the competition isn't always about winning or losing. You can learn a lot from other teams by visiting their team tables, and there will be a bunch of creative ideas to explore, and you can learn how other teams decided to make their robot, the different design ideas they had, and how they decided to model their designs as well.
Okay, so typically in the first program, you would typically spend about like 6 hours in the typical season. And this isn't always the case though, as some meetings might be longer than others, and sometimes we always take breaks during like winter break. And so each individual does spend 8 hours in the typical season every week because this season does require commitment and robotics does require commitment. And like this can be inside the meeting or outside the meeting, and we'll typically meet like about 3 to 4 times a week during the typical competition season. But due to the pandemic, our schedules have been widely effective, so we meet about once each week now, and each subgroup will meet on their own time. So as a team, we decided to split up our work, and then we split up into 3 groups, mainly the hardware, the software, and then the outreach groups. And the people basically do what they want and they learn what they want. And because of this, it's very efficient with the robot. And now we are able to accomplish stuff much quicker. And as we go, we typically list the tasks that we want to do, and then we assign these people to the different tasks. And with each subgroup, we divvy up the tasks, and it will help us better with the communication as we get to see how different parts fit together and even how different like subgroups fit together.
Next, we're going to talk about the game layout. So first, for the robot game, there are 3 main sections: the autonomous, teleop, and end game. Autonomous lasts 30 seconds and is at the beginning, and you can only run pre-programmed instructions, and you can't use the controller to control the robot. Next is teleop, which lasts 90 seconds. It's driver controlled, meaning you have 1 to 2 drivers using controllers to control the robot and do tasks, and the controls have to be pre-programmed in. Then end game is 30 seconds long, and it's basically teleop, except there are usually more opportunities to earn points. And next, this video is the Skystone season kickoff, which is last year's season. The video goes over how you can earn points and the tasks you will need to do in the different parts of the game.
Welcome to the first Tech Challenge game for the 2019-2020 First Rise season, Skystone, presented by Qualcomm. A team consists of up to 2 driver operators, a coach, a human player, and a robot. The robot must be built from materials specified in the game manual and fit within an 18-inch sizing tool, but may expand after the match begins. Each match is played with 4 randomly selected teams, 2 per alliance. Each alliance is allowed only 1 human player. Your opponents for one match may be your partners for another. The game is played on a 12-foot square playing field with a foam tile floor and 1-foot-high walls. 8 unique navigation targets are mounted on the field walls. Separating the landing zone from the building zone is the Sky Bridge, made up of 2 Alliance-specific bridges with 14 inches of clearance and a neutral bridge 20 inches high. Red and blue depots are taped off in the loading zone corners. Red and blue building sites are taped off in the building zone corners. Outside of the field walls are the Alliance stations and human player stations. The main game element is a stone, 4 by 8 and 5 inches tall. There are 56 stones in the game. In addition, there are 4 special sky stones, with a navigation target wrapped over one side. During gameplay, stones are assembled onto Alliance-specific foundations. These are placed in the center of the building zone, but can be moved by robots during gameplay. Each team can design and build a special capstone, which may be used to score additional points. Before each match, teams place their robots on the field, touching the wall closest to their Alliance station. 24 stones are stacked next to each human player station. And 12 more stones are placed on the field, including 4 randomly located sky stones. Each team may preload 1 capstone onto their robot, or the human player may introduce it later in the game. Each match begins with a 30-second autonomous period. During this period, there are a number of ways for teams to score using only pre-programmed instructions and sensor inputs. Repositioning a foundation to the building site will earn 10 points for the Alliance. An Alliance earns 2 points for each stone delivered to the building zone. Both the robot and stone must be completely in the building zone. A sky stone moved into the building zone earns 10 points, only if it is the first or second sky stone delivered. After that, sky stones are worth only 2 points. If a robot can park over the midfield tape, it will earn 5 points. And finally, each stone placed in the foundation earns 2 points. Following the autonomous period is the 2-minute driver-controlled period. There are a number of ways to score points. Each stone delivered completely through an Alliance's bridge earns 1 point. However, a stone delivered through the neutral bridge does not earn any points. Each stone placed on the foundation earns 1 point. The last 30 seconds of the driver-controlled period is the end game. During this time, robots may continue scoring stones, but there are also ways to earn bonus points. Placing a capstone on a skyscraper will earn a 5-point bonus, plus 1 point for each level of stones. If a robot moves their foundation completely out of the building site, their Alliance earns 15 points. An Alliance will earn an additional 5 points for each robot parked in the building site. There are many ways to score in Skystone, but there are also rules that, if not followed, will award points to your opponents. For example, robots may not tip over an opponent's skyscraper. Robots cannot block access to their opponent's field elements. Robots are not allowed to reach outside of the playing field. Robots cannot launch game elements, nor are they allowed to deliberately detach parts. This has been a brief summary of the Skystone game. For complete rules, scoring, and official field setup, please read the entire game manual and check the Q&A forum. And always remember, the most important rule of the First Tech Challenge, gracious professionalism. Good luck, teams, and have a great season.
Yeah, so that was a short summary of the game. Next, we have a couple videos showing our robot from last year's season. The first one is our autonomous, but the videos are all a bit outdated. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a video of our autonomous program. Next, we show the depositing system, which is what we use to place the yellow stones onto the foundation. Okay, next we're going to talk about this year's game. So obviously, since it's a different season, the game looks different. And also because of COVID, the competitions are now virtual instead of physical. So instead of playing on one whole field, remote games can be played on half field to save more space. And then the games are scored by teams themselves instead of referees, because obviously you can't have referees over. And then games are also played over the course of a few days instead of just one day.
Now I guess I'll quickly go over some of like the where you can find some resources to help you get started. On the first website, there are some resources in the resource library. So for software, there's tutorials for Java, which is pretty similar to it has some additions to it, but it's overall pretty similar to most other text-based programming languages. And then there's also a blocks-based programming language that might be more familiar if that's more similar to things like Scratch. So if you think that that would be better, then you can use that as well. In addition, there are a ton of resources made by other teams. So like on YouTube, you can find many resources, and then there are also like PDFs made by a lot of times school teams, and then so those can help a lot too. And most importantly, this is for both software and hardware. Like one during competitions and two during scrimmages, which are basically like get-togethers. You can ask other teams for help there or ideas there as well. People are generally very happy to share.
Here are some like hardware resources that we briefly compiled, but generally there is a page on firstinspires.org which has like resources to both hardware and programming, as well as some entry notebook resources that we'll get to later. But generally for like rookie teams or first year teams, they usually would look into like FTC kits, which are provided by third-party sellers. So like these third-party sellers are just like sellers who coordinate with FTC and First, and they like just like compile all these FTC kits that that like First and like the third-party sellers think would be helpful in building like a really basic robot. And generally, this is where first-year rookie teams start off with FTC kits. But as like time progresses and like team members usually get more experience with building a robot, they tend to look towards like, I guess, designing their own pieces and custom pieces, like either through like 3D printing or like actually like using metal sheets and everything, bandsaw to create their own custom pieces. And additionally, these third-party sellers also have other like parts and kits that teams can buy to use on their robot that aren't necessarily included in the FTC kit. So we created or we linked some links in here. We'll send the presentation out later too, so you can have access to these links. But these are some resources that you can check out. And as for like design creation inspiration, YouTube is like a really good resource. Teams usually post like what they've done throughout the season or in the past seasons on YouTube, and these like you can like really see like what other teams are doing through YouTube videos and potentially use those ideas into like personal team ideas and creations. So that was like all the technical aspects of FGC. There is a judging session additionally on the day of the competition to really, I guess, accumulate in the culmination of what all the teams have done throughout the season. Um, for those of you who are attending the hackathon, the judging session for FTC is really similar to the presentations that we've set up for you tomorrow, except for like a few minor technical details. So the judging session for FTC is about 10 minutes. There's a presentation and a Q&A. And during the judging session is when teams really talk about what they've learned throughout the season, what they have accomplished throughout the season. This is not only in regards to like the robot hardware and programming, but also something that we call outreach and like reaching out to the community. Um, the judging session is really like a space where the teams can share out with these judges about like what they've done throughout the entire season, really, yeah. And an integral part of the judging session would be the engineering notebook. So the engineering notebook is just the documentation of like the robot journey, and yeah, there's no slide of the robot journey, as well as like the journey of the entire team throughout the season. So the engineering notebook would have components like the business plan or like outreach documentation, meeting notes, and like documentation of how the team went through the engineering design process when building the robot. So in a typical season, the engineering notebook is all that's needed really for the judging session. But because we're in a pandemic and we're not really physically meeting these judges, we would need to send the documentation over to the judges somehow. And because engineering notebooks tend to be like a really big document, first actually created this something called the engineering portfolio. The engineering portfolio is like a 15-page summary of the engineering notebook. But while the engineering notebook isn't really, I guess, required for the season, um, a lot of like the awards that we get from the judging session um, actually requires an engineering notebook so that the judges can really have a better idea of what the team has done throughout the entire season. So they would look through the engineering portfolio, and if they find some specific section that they're really interested in the engineering portfolio, they'll actually look into the engineering notebook to actually find more about what the team has done. So I guess how our team is approaching the engineering notebook this year is really just creating an engineering notebook and then just write a 15-page summary to really streamline things instead of writing an engineer portfolio first and then going in depth and writing the engineering notebook. And so the judging session is also really a way that teams can advance without having to be really technically technically strong through like the robot game or something. So the judging session is quite an integral part of the FTC program. And for those of you, once again, who are in the hackathon, this judging session is really something that that's really similar to what you're doing now, actually. And so to get you started on like robotics and I guess your journey, we have this link here that you can explore on your own sometime. It has like a few links on like educational games or simulations of like building a robot or finding more about how NASA uses robots in their exploration of space. So this is a really cool link that I would recommend you to check out in your spare time. It's pretty educational, yeah. And so that's like all the technical details about the First Tech Challenge and First as a whole. And then because this is a seminar, we wanted to have like a Q&A session. So if anybody has any questions, just feel free to drop them in the chat or I guess unmute your microphone and we can answer to the best of our ability. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, now is the time to share. Also, I think there's another FTC team here with us today, I think. Is that a correct statement? Like, I think I see Genevieve from team 18368. Do you want to maybe share out like a little bit about like what you're doing this season? Like how things are going? Anything really? I guess since we don't really have any questions, I can talk a little bit about like, I guess, how First has really impacted me, and like how I've changed because of First. So a little backstory, but I've been involved with First since fourth grade. I'm in 11th grade now, so I think 7 years. I first started out with FLL, which is the program below FTC. And I've been going from like FLL and I moved up to FTC with like a bunch of my friends and everything. And I think definitely FTC has in First overall has really helped me become a more confident speaker, and that an integral part of like really the competition is just the judging session and really presenting. And I used to be, I used to not like public speaking, or I would have a lot of, I guess, filler words. And like when I present, I would have like a lot of like repetitive ideas. And I didn't really have like, I guess, a really concrete direction and where my presentation was going. So I felt like through the guidance of like one of our coaches, who's like one of my best friend's mom, but yeah, but like she really helped me like fine tune and improve my presentation and public speaking skills, as well as like the confidence that comes with it. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's like the biggest part that I've changed from attending or from joining First. And
Oh
then
yeah,
I,
Serena, we got a question in the chat. It says, what's the best way to find a team? And I think basically the best way to find the teams, I think there's like many different teams open in our area. You typically, if you search on the First site, you'll be able to find a lot of teams like just on the First site, because that's basically where the teams are. Does
and then as we mentioned in the presentation earlier, You don't necessarily have to find like a seasoned team that's already in your area. You can definitely just reach out to your friends who are interested in, say, like programming or building robots, and you can really just create a team from there. Like for those of you who are part of the hackathon, just by being involved in hackathon and like, I guess, learning more about programming and like attending all the workshops that we have, that's like a great start to really forming a robotics team, starting on your like STEM journey and working towards like a STEM career. That's like already like a head start that you have. So just finding a team is just, you can create your own team with your friends. I guess the team dynamic might be better that way too. Like you might be more cohesive since you already know people who are your friends.
And generally joining teams is like word of mouth generally is the easiest way for things to happen. So even for people who join teams, a lot of it is that. And there's definitely nothing like intrinsically like special about a more well-established team. Like obviously they might have more experience, but like I think a 2-year-old team of Space Turtles, did they get to Worlds? I think they at least got to state, but they did have at the very least, they had a very strong robot. Like, granted, you're definitely gonna have like probably need to spend more effort in the first season if you create a new team, but you definitely can perform very well, and obviously you'll learn a lot regardless. So, yeah.
Okay, turn the camera on. Can't turn the camera on, do that.
I can talk now.
Hello, I think you're part of FTC, right? Is that a
Yes.
correct? Yeah. Do you want to maybe share a little bit about like what you're doing, your team's doing? I don't know.
Okay. So we're doing FTC and our robot's almost complete. We're testing it a lot. We're having engineers look at it from different places. We also work a lot with Outlook on our team. So we work a lot with schools and the community, getting children interested.
That sounds like a solid spot with your robot and everything.
Yeah. Is there any other questions or anything else?
I don't know. Do you like maybe want to share like how you're structuring your team, if you're meeting in person? I don't know.
Yeah, so we're actually meeting in person. So we're actually going in one of the coach's basement because our school is not open. So we're working in the basement of our coach, and it's pretty fun. We break down the days that each of the groups of the team come. The group that works on the coding of the robot comes mostly on Mondays. And then we have Tuesdays, we have our Outlook day kind of, so where we meet with other people to get to know what we can do and learn about our robot and learn about different techniques. And then we also do homework helpers where we help our middle school help our middle school with like homework and stuff. And then on Wednesdays, our building group comes in and works on actually making the different parts and fixing all the parts and making it better. And then on Thursday, our team actually goes to MSOE, the engineering school in Milwaukee, and we go there and we actually practice running our robot, and that's when the engineers come in. So
well, it's really cool how you have like professional people helping you out and like
engineers
coming in. Yeah. Seems like you have a very packed week.
Yeah.
Maybe does my team want to share what we have with our robot and everything? We can screen share or something. I don't know. Do we care to share?
I guess I can share a little less about the robot and more about like how we structure our meetings. We have one like synchronous meeting every Saturday. So all of our team members go and we catch up. We assign the tasks that we want to do for software, hardware, all of the different parts. And then usually we only have and this is all online because of the pandemic. So we have our 2-hour meeting or so. And after we divide the tasks, we start working on the tasks. And outside of that 2-hour meeting would basically be dependent on each team. So for example, the software team meets on Sundays for 2 hours as well, where we start doing some tests, where we write the code, etc., do the extra research. And for our hardware team, I don't believe we have a set time that we meet every week, but you basically talk to everybody in your specific part in the hardware. For example, if someone's on the collection system, all of the collection system members will discuss and find a time where they can meet and start working on it. So usually we only have about 2 hours that is set for everybody to go. But without the pandemic, before that, we usually have, I think, 2.5-hour meetings on Fridays, and I believe it's like 4 or so hours on Sundays as well, that we all get together and divide the tasks and start working on, or continue working on our robot.
Cool. Does anybody else have any questions that we can address or anything? If Nathan wants to go to the next slide. Yeah, so here's like all our contact information where you can find us if like a question pops up like after the seminar or something. And then if you really want to find more about the robotics program that we're part of, there's the link firstinspires.org, which you can check out for like all the other programs under FIRST too, such as like FLL Junior, FLL, and FRC. And FRC is like, I guess the higher level of FTC, of like a greater scale than FTC. And FRC is usually for just high schoolers. So if you're going to high school, if you're currently a high schooler, it'd be really cool to check out FRC.
No, yeah, we probably should have mentioned that for finding teams. A lot of schools have teams, so usually they're FRC. FRC has much larger teams as well, so that's another. It's like I think like 40 to 50 members a lot of the time, so that's another thing to keep in mind.
So if no one has any questions, you're really free to leave. We'll stay behind to chat, answer some questions, and just socialize if anybody wants to stay behind. But thank you everybody for coming. I hope this seminar was helpful in some sort.
Thanks for coming.